Hello, and welcome to another live stream from the only source of information that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. And tonight's theme is going to be the two parties that never seem to end. And so we're going to discuss those two parties. And I'm guessing that most of my subscribers probably have figured out what those two parties are. The little picture there is of a wall. And I don't know if the empire's current spokesmodel is planning on building anything that elaborate. It would be nice if he did. I really would like to see the Great Wall of China before I die. But if they would just build a Great Wall of China between America and Mexico, I would go down there and take a walk on it. Probably bring a ladder or two. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. Anyways, let's see who's here. Shannon Holtz. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Freebird Oneification. Hello there, buddy. Mishu. Hola. Everyone was up. Hello from Uncle Nesta. Hello. Hello to Mark. Lara's here. Carlos is here. Good evening, everyone. I'm here. I love you, brother. Love you too. I said as much in the past, and I said it first. Got my coffee at just the right temperature. Got me some water over here, also at the right temperature. Before we get into it, we'll give people an opportunity to check in. We got 15 viewers so far. Might be time to get started because I think that's really about all the subscribers I got. It's really weird. I really put a lot of effort into the Melchizedek series. And when I started that series, the punchline was going to be revealing the true identity of Melchizedek. And I thought this is going to be the video series that elevates my channel to where it should properly be. And the reason being that when I would type in the word Melchizedek on YouTube, there would be like 100 videos come up and all of them have 1 million views. And you think, wow, a lot of people are trying to find out who Melchizedek is. So I made my little video about who Melchizedek is. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 actually revealed that Melchizedek was Canaan, something no one has ever said before. I use the scriptures to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that Canaan, in fact, was Melchizedek. And I actually had a few other parts that were coming after that. If I hadn't got sick, I would have gone ahead and completed. And in fact, as soon as spring gets here, I'm sure I'll get those done. And when it was all over with, there was only 600 views. Now, I suspect it's actually much less than that because a whole bunch of people were telling me, wow, I had to watch this over and over again. So I suspect that probably only about 200, maybe 300 people actually watched the Melchizedek video, but they watched it several times. So just mind-blowing that we're this close to the end and so few people are actually catching on to what's going on. But that's okay. As time goes on, things are going to start happening and people are going to start searching and hopefully they'll end up here. All right, let's see who else has come in so far. We got 23 viewing. Good evening from My Pale Star. I guess you did. Great Wall China was supposed to keep the Mongoloid Kenites out. All right, coffee sounds great. Snowdrop Johnson. Hi, everyone. Uncle Nesta. But Jesus loved us first. That's a good point. But I was enjoying being first for a minute. Please give us the wall. Okay. You're going to get some information about the wall. You have to get your politician to give you the actual wall. Hey, Henry, hope all is well from Ernest Meadows. There's quite a few names here I'm not really recognizing. I'm so glad that we got a few other people coming in. There's Rick again and Patricia, as always. And somebody sent something that I have to check out later. Loudspeaker, if you're an actual subscriber, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get through tonight. And by the time that I get around to going through these, you might want to, if you really are interested in anything I'm saying, because I don't even know who you are, you might want to go leave a comment on this video after the video post. All right, Freebird Unification. We should be watching out for what's going on in Venezuela for the next 2 weeks. You know, one of my friends in Australia sent me a message about that. I guess I should check it out myself. Yeah, Jesus is a high priest in the order of Melchizedek. Oh, you're going to find out. See, that was another thing that was really, really huge that was coming. I was going to actually reveal who Jesus was in the first century and who he was before that and who he is going to be in the future. And I still think about that every day. You know, I still, I'm in communication with quite a few people, you know, BMX Lion, obviously, and I get together and talk about these things. And I'm still excited about telling people about, well, you already know some of the stuff about Jesus in the first century, because I keep letting that leak out. You know, Jesus had a family here on earth. And the Bible very clearly states, you know, that his mother was Mary, that Joseph was his adopted father, that he had at least 4 brothers named Simon and James and Judas and Joseph, and he had a sister named Salome. And then it later reveals that James and John, the other James and John, were his brothers by a different father. So Mary had children by a man named Zebedee. Now, if we look at the story of Jesus and what it represents, you know, we're talking about a modern day version of the 12 tribes of Israel. Those 12 tribes came from one man by 4 women. It says Jacob had 4 women that he produced offspring with, and that became the nation of Israel. Jesus was basically reenacting that. But this time around, it was Mary who ended up being the mother of at least 6 of the apostles. And as time goes on, we're going to find out that probably Mary was the actual biological mother of all 12 of the apostles. And so that's a big thing. That's no church is talking about that, and yet no one's coming to me to hear about it. Well, let's see what else is up here. S. Coulter, as always, says hello. Uncle Nestor, once again, hi. Okay, got him raw. Good evening, folks. Dan Saber, what does it mean that Canaan is Melchizedek? Well, that's also going to be in a future video. But Jesus, when he came to the earth, okay, the Bible very clearly says that Joseph was his adopted father. It was not his real father. And that in the Bible, all prophecies indicate that the kings, the ruling kings of Judah, would always come through the line of Judah. So Judah, you know, was Judah was the tribe that was supposed to happen from. David became the first king, who was the son of Jesse. David's son Solomon, the next king, they all came from the tribe of Judah. So Jesus had to come from the tribe of Judah, right? That's not true, because Joseph was not Jesus' father. It was his adopted father. But his mother was his real mother, but she was from the tribe of Levi. Bible very clearly says that there was a woman named Elizabeth, and her husband was a priest in the tribe of Levi. Elizabeth was from the tribe of Levi. Then later it says that Mary was Elizabeth's cousin. Well, if we look that up in the original Greek, it does not say Mary was the cousin of Elizabeth. It says that Mary went to visit Elizabeth because Elizabeth was from the tribe of Levi, which was the tribe of Mary, which would mean that Jesus' only association with the tribe of Judah was through adoption. So that's a big one for the churches. And so that's what happened with Canaan. Canaan ended up being the son of Noah, but his birth mother was actually the wife of Ham. So it's a similar story. We'll get into all of that when I make the next video. Let's see here. What else do we have? If we share your videos, we will grow. Yes, I always suggest that if you feel I can get away with it and you're not going to be persecuted by your family and friends, to post my videos on your Facebook pages, tell people about this information, but Don't hurt yourself. One of my subscribers is having a lot of family problems now because he's shared some of the things that I've taught him with his family, and they're ostracizing him. So don't push it. If you tell somebody something and they grasp onto it, teach them everything you know. But if they reject you, reject the teaching, go on. Just go on and don't worry about it. You know, God's not going to send them all to hell because they don't listen to sustenance and covering. Marshmallow's here. Marie's here. All right. Let's see here. Venezuela is under economic attack by big oil, USA, and now plan a military invasion. I did hear something about that. Okay. Now we're going to get into the part about the two-party system. And we're just going to start by talking about the wall because about a week ago, I was sent a video by Carlos where some guy was saying, he was comparing the wall that's being built now. If they build the wall, I think the government's still shut down, or at least they may have. I think they made an announcement a couple of days ago that they were going to open the government back up. I don't know if that's true or not. Don't really care because it's all nonsense. It's scripted. You know, they're not going to put an end to America. I can tell you that. But in any case, it was showing this coin. It had a picture of Cyrus and Donald Trump on the front of it, comparing the two of them. And then the person that was making the video said that this wall was fulfillment of Bible prophecy because in the past, the walls were built by Cyrus and they were built by, Solomon. And so somehow Trump is part of that line. There's a few reasons why that's nonsense, but at the same time, it's possible that God is aligning things in order that that seemingly is a fulfillment of prophecy, because all of those who worship Satan have to believe that these prophecies are about their different religions, and but at the same time, we have to see the foolishness of those prophecies. Now, one thing that wasn't brought out by this man is the fact that Cyrus, in his role, represented Satan. So if you go back in history, we're supposed to believe they're about to build, I think, the third temple. It's really 4 temples because the first temple was built by Solomon. In the Bible, Solomon's role is always like a reenactment or a pre-enactment of events that took place in the past involving Satan. So Solomon represented Satan. You know, when you read the book of Proverbs, it starts off by saying, this is the wisdom of Solomon, which sounds like a good thing. But if you look up that word wisdom, it gets used throughout the Bible for demonic entities. It's not something that was used by good people. It's like the wisdom of the Egyptians, the wisdom of the Babylonians, the wisdom of the magic practicing priests. That word is bad. So when it says that these words are the wisdom of Solomon, that means they are not the words of God. So Solomon prefigured, or was a version of Satan. He was enacting things having to do with Satan. Well, when his temple was destroyed, the next temple that was built was put up by Cyrus. It was commanded by Cyrus that they go put up this temple. And Cyrus also, being the king of Persia, or the prince of Persia, royal prince of Persia, also represented Satan. And in fact, in that same time period when Daniel is begging God to send him some answers, he sends the angel Gabriel. Gabriel comes to him 30 days later or 50 days later, says, I am so sorry I didn't get to you in time, but we had to fight against the royal prince of Persia, who was Cyrus. So Cyrus represented the antichrist of his day. So Solomon was an antichrist in his day. Cyrus was the antichrist of his day. And then later Herod came along and played the role of antichrist when he built the third temple. Now, you're going to see a lot of arguments that was not an actual building of the temple, but a repair of the temple. But every historian alive at the time says that Herod completely disassembled the temple and rebuilt it. So there's the third one. The fourth one is going to be whatever we have coming. Now, as far as the wall goes, there are verses in the Bible. I can't remember which book it was, but after the Israelites were released by Cyrus from Babylonian captivity and sent back into the land, they were told to rebuild their temple. But they were also told to rebuild the wall, and that while they were rebuilding the wall, they had to have one hand on a building instrument and one hand on a sword, because they would have to be fighting to rebuild the wall. If we go back and look at that, a lot of that is prophetic. There's a lot of numbers in there associating the rebuilding of the wall with the reestablishment of the ice wall around the earth, the sphere that was originally here before the flood, that fell to the earth. It's the waters of the flood going back as the waters above the atmosphere, and that's what that's about. But knowing that that wall was built by Cyrus, who clearly was the prince of Persia that fought against Gabriel, the antichrist of his day, associating Trump with Cyrus is not necessarily a good thing. Now, we'll get to the two-party thing, the two-party system. Human beings, from the very beginning, were promised that if they, well, it was Eve, was promised if she would simply enter into a covenant with Satan, she could be a god herself. Said, you will, for surely God is, you're not going to die. If you eat from this fruit, God doesn't want you to eat from it, because he knows that your eyes will be opened and you'll be like a god. Well, you can't have a god without worshipers. What's the point? If everybody is a god, then who's going to be obedient to you? Who's going to provide sacrifices to you and all that? So you have to divide people up. And so the two-party system was established way early in history. The Egyptians had a two-party system, the Syrians, the Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Romans, and yes, I understand that they all had emperors, and they all had kings, and they all had pharaohs, but those pharaohs were subject to the people that they ruled over, and the people they were ruled over were always divided into two parties. That's the way it's always been. So anyways, let's take a break from that while I go back and read some more of these comments before they go off of the edge of the screen here. Okay, Uncle Nesta Raw says Damascus pretty much flattened. Not really sure what that's about, but you know, a lot of times people associate what's going on with a political situation. We need the wisdom of Abba, Father, which that is true. All of the Holly weirdos are demonic. Well, you know what? That is true. But even Satan, who obviously is demonic, is being manipulated into doing certain things. These people in Hollywood, when they make these movies where they have all these obelisks and pyramids and pentagrams, and they're always telling stories of you know, good against evil and all that, they're actually probably being manipulated into that situation by God, even though it's Satan that's asking them to do it, and even though they're doing it in, you know, service to Satan. You know, in the Bible, it says, when it talks about Satan, it says he's like the great dragon who's had hooks put into his nostrils so that he might be dragged out of the Nile, with fish clinging to his scales and birds consuming his flesh. So, you know, you just have to know that God's in control. These people that are doing these wicked things, you know, obviously they're wicked, and they are making the choice to do these things, but it's probably at God's direction. The nation of India is almost 100% dependent on Venezuelan oil. They'll be screwed if they can't intervene and prevent Venezuela from becoming a plantation. And look, all of this stuff, all these manipulations are, you know, weird. The United States is not Satan's empire. Civilization is Satan's empire. The United States is just the capital of Satan's empire. You know, just as Egypt or England was the previous capital, as Rome was the capital before that, Greece was the capital before that. All of these world empires, all the way back to Egypt, have always been the capital of Satan's empire. But it was always, from the beginning, as the Bible says at 1 John 5:19, the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. In the very beginning of Matthew, when Satan tempted Jesus, he said, look, I can make you the king. All these empires can be yours if you just do this one act of worship to me. So at that time, Rome was the ruling power. And Jesus could have easily been the ruler of Rome if Satan had given the okay, but Jesus refused. Many men have been given the opportunity to rule the world. Jesus stands out as the only one that has ever refused. So anyways, let's get back over here again. Are you saying Trump is the Antichrist? I'm confused. Well, there are many antichrists. All politicians are struggling to get that position. But in all honesty, you know, the Bible doesn't really say there's going to be an antichrist, not in those words, but it does talk about a man of lawlessness, which seems to be a single ruler over all of Satan's empire, probably Satan in the flesh. And I believe there really is such a man. I believe he's alive today, but I don't think he's Trump. You know, Trump is just one of his minions, just like Obama was one of his minions and every other politician before then, all the way back to George Washington, all the way back to Osiris, the very first pharaoh. All right, I used to be in favor of the wall, but it just occurred to me that that wall may be used to keep Americans from, that's, you know, that's the thing. If you go back and you look at prophecy, the wall that they built around Jerusalem when Cyrus released them from Babylonian captivity is not the only wall that was ever built. You know, the Jews were very xenophobic. Xenophobic means they didn't like outsiders. You know, if you're reading the Bible and you read any, like the book of Acts, they really hated the Greeks. Not just because the Greeks were, you know, controlled their land, but because they were just foreigners. It's just like in America, Americans hate Muslims. Americans hate what, you know, at one time Americans hated blacks. In fact, all of that's still going on. People inside of this nation can't even get along with one another. So of course they're going to hate everybody that's outside of the nation. But the Jews in the first century were just as xenophobic as Americans are today. And so when the disciples were asking Jesus, what will be a sign of your presence and of the conclusion of the system of things? Or what will be a sign of the end of the world? Jesus responded with all of the things that he said. Don't worry about wars. Don't worry about famine. Don't worry about earthquakes, because none of that means a thing. But the wicked prophets will be telling you to look for famines and earthquakes and wars. What I'm telling you is to look to the heavens for signs from heaven. But he did say something that could have a heavenly meaning and it could have an earthly meaning. He said, there's going to build a wall. So you're going to, when you see men driving pointed sticks into the ground, know that the end is near. Now, in another version, I think Luke's version, it says, whenever you see the disgusting thing that causes desolation, know that the end is near. Well, historians record that right before the entire nation of Judah, or city of Judah, was exterminated, that the Roman soldiers came in and they tried to attack, but they were repelled. And it was a great victory for the Jews. And so they came back. And they started deforesting the entire surrounding area and bringing these tree trunks in and sharpening the ends and driving them into the ground until they had a wall all the way around Judea. And then they went in and they exterminated everyone. And so that's what a wall does. As we're being questioned, you know, as it said there, this wall may not be about keeping people out. Maybe about keeping people in. I'll say this, there's no reason to get upset one way or the other. Now, you've always got a two-party system. You've always got to have two different parties so that one party can feel like they are gods and the other party can be perceived as the servants of the first party. And that's why every 4 years, 8 years, they change. If you look historically, there's always, Earth is run by the conservatives for a while, and then the earth is run by the liberals. Each one wants to feel like they're a god. Well, the reality is, observing a border, an imaginary line, is the will of Satan. God did not put those lines there. You know, God put things like the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean there, but he didn't put an imaginary line between Mexico and the United States. That's Satan's line. But this isn't necessarily a good thing or a bad thing either way. You know, I think I heard our latest spokesmodel saying that he would shut down the government until they gave us funding for a wall and medical facilities. Now, here's the thing that you need to know. It's no secret that the United States was founded on slavery. What does seem to be a secret is the fact that the United States runs on slavery today. You know, slavery is nothing more than making poor people work all the time so that rich people can have lots of nice stuff. And so that's the system we work under. And that means we have to provide this stuff that's ridiculous, yachts and mansions and skyscrapers and all that stuff. So somebody somewhere has to work for ridiculously low pay. Now, they've made laws that you can't go out and kidnap people from Africa and force them to do the work. But what you do is you let these people walk thousands of miles across the desert and kidnap themselves. You know what they talk about, Jim Crow laws, after they made slavery illegal, they made laws that if you didn't have a job, you would get arrested and forced to work. So even though all the farmers lost their slaves after the Civil War, all of those slaves were recaptured and forced to pick cotton for free based on the fact that they didn't have jobs. So we've always had slavery. And right now, basically, the Hispanic people from south of the border are working as the nation's slave labor force. So they're not going to stop letting them in. If they build a wall, they're going to have to put doors, and they're going to have to start giving these people the legal permission to work here. You know, right now they're working without legal permission, but just because we put up a wall doesn't mean suddenly the crops are going to pick themselves, or that, you know, white people are going to start building roads. You know, we've got to let these people in. So it's not going to change the amount of people that come to America. It's just going to get these people on paper. You know, get them a Social Security number or whatever. But anyways, that's the whole thing, is that right now, thousands of people die every year trying to enter this country after the wall's put up. Same amount of people will continue to die trying to get into this country. The same amount will get into the country because there's no way for America to continue existing without letting those people in. Okay, well, let's stop for a second. I used to have Ala Toledo here to stop me from ranting. But at the same time, if you're out there, Alex Toledo, please send me a message. I've sent him a little thing on Skype earlier asking if he was going to be here, and I haven't heard back from him. All right. Let's see here. Criminals are predictable. I don't know what that said. It just moved off of the thing. But here's the deal. If you take all of the immigrants that are coming in here legally and illegally, there's always going to be some gay guys. And there's going to be some doctors, and there's going to be some, you know, cotton pickers. There's going to be some criminals. There's going to be some Christians. There's going to be some Jews, going to be some Muslims. And the groups that are sneaking in here, basically, they're not changing that dynamic. We have the same amount per capita of each of those things as we had the day before. It's not going to change at all. And it's not like everyone who immigrates is a criminal and everyone who lives here is a righteous person. You know, this country was filled with criminals way before people started immigrating in illegally. And immigrating illegally or legally doesn't change what's in a person's heart. Yeah, Rawl says, I've given up on society. I'm pretty much a recluse now. I think pretty much all the people that watch my videos have to be a recluse. But can you guess the Antichrist? I thought by definition it couldn't be known. I actually am pretty sure I know who the Antichrist is, and without revealing anything, he's like in his 30s, and he is headed for that position right now. And so, you know, it's kind of not a bad thing, you know, knowing that he's present and that he is working his way up to the top means that we're that close, because the Antichrist has to be here when the end comes. You know, you don't want to be in a world without an Antichrist, because that means you have to live out your life and die, and somebody else gets to see Christ return. I want to be one of the people who actually sees Christ with my eyes. I don't want to have to wake up into a new world and ask somebody to explain to me what happened. I mean, this is a special privilege, and I'm really hoping that I live to see it. Okay, Anna Lara, she's same way, another hermit. Uncle Nesta is sanctified, not recluse. But yes, separate. Matt, look, I agree, Obi-Wan. Raw. Oh, that's too raw. It's a trap. from Patricia. Yeah, the recluse lifestyle is becoming more and more promising every day from S. Coulter. She agrees. Yeah, New York voting to murder babies, and they're proud of it. Now, look, here's the thing about that. People have to make hard decisions every day, and people have no consciences. All they know is what they can taste, touch, smell, see, hear, and they make bad decisions. And yeah, obviously killing is bad. But since I'm not a vegan, I do kill. Even if I don't kill the animals, I eat animals that are killed. And I'm comparing animals to babies. But grown-ups should be compared to babies. And every year, millions of human beings are slaughtered in warfare that's started by these guys that a lot of my subscribers vote for. And I am aware that people feel like they have to choose a lesser of two evils. But the lesser of two evils is going to kill 1 million people this year. And if you vote for the worser of two evils, he's going to kill 1 million people. Voting doesn't change any of this evil. You don't want to touch this filthy system. So these people that are committing abortions, they are no worse than people who do not commit abortions. They are no worse than those who vote. They are no worse than those who join the military. They are no worse than people who work in a factory building machines that will kill people. It's one of those things. We cannot sit in judgment of anyone. We have to recognize this world is wicked. It's going to continue wicked until our current world ruler, who is Satan, is replaced by our proper world ruler, who is Jesus. I'm going to miss a lot of this, and I promise you I'm not going to go back and watch this entire, whatever it turns out to, probably about an hour. I'm not going to go back and watch the entire hour again. So if you have something you want to share with me, and I don't read it right off of this thing right here, it means I probably didn't see it. And so you might want to send me a message later if it's directed to me. Jesus' new earth is soon. That's right. That's why it's important to have an antichrist. But we are not. That's really the only symbol. The only thing we have that allows us to know that we're nearing the end. Not earthquakes, not wars, not famine, not pestilence. It's the fact that this information that's coming out of my mouth has not been heard by human beings for 2,000 years. I'm not saying everything out of my mouth is prophetic. But for 2,000 years, the churches have been teaching that Jesus' daddy died when he was a baby and he had no brothers and sisters, even though it's in the Bible that he did. And in fact, it says that his father claimed the body in order to put it into the family grave. And if you haven't heard that information and you're familiar with the Bible, then you've heard stories about Joseph of Arimathea, the rich man who claimed Jesus' body and put it into a tomb that he had purchased for himself. If you go back and read that, in Greek, it's Joseph of Ramah. I mean, that's what Arimathea means, Ramah, Joseph of Ramah. And it says very clearly that when Jesus was born, it was fulfillment of prophecy saying, when Jesus was born, all of the male babies were killed. And it was explained in the Bible that was a fulfillment of the prophecy in the Hebrew portion of the Bible, the Old Testament, that says that Rachel was crying for her children in Ramah, because that's the name of the area where Jesus had been living, where Joseph and Jesus and Mary had fled from when Herod sent in soldiers to kill all of the babies. So calling him Joseph of Ramah is just another way of indicating that for a certainty, Joseph of Ramah was Mary's husband, Joseph. And in fact, whenever Jesus was buried, it only speaks of 3 people going into the tomb, I think. And that was Mary and Joseph and Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene being Jesus' girlfriend, Joseph and Mary being Jesus' parents. Which it was a regular funeral, had a bunch of people there, but those were the only 3 people that went in. So let's see. I can't even remember what point I was trying to make before, but take a look at some of these over here. Chile Extra. Hello from Chile, South America. See there, the word is getting out. People from all over the world are learning about these things. Whoever it is now will have to be deposed. It might not be that that might not be exactly true. The guy that's in charge now may simply remove his crown and give it to the Antichrist when it's his turn. Now, the Antichrist is going to be deposed, but it's not going to be by human beings. You know, that was the whole teaching of the Bible from the very beginning, is that Jesus died to pay the ransom to buy us back from the Antichrist. When Jesus returns to claim us, then it's over. That's when the Antichrist is sent off into exile. Now, if you think you can get in there with a gun and put a bullet in his head when he makes his appearance, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen, because it's not prophesied. You cannot overrule Bible prophecy. Jesus' return will put an end to the Antichrist. God will send him away when it is time. You will not. Bahidem says he's a hermit too. And you know, honestly, I am. I'm not comfortable going to town. I get really, really sick when I know I have to go to the courthouse or the doctor, because these people always try to harm me. So I like to get in and out as quickly as possible without, you know, having to suffer any more than I have to. I have heard that the Antichrist may be Prince William. And I guess Shannon, I've tried to talk to him before, but he doesn't have the capability of Skyping or anything, because where he lives is not powerful enough. But if you should somehow happen to get a better connection, give me a call one day and we'll talk about this Antichrist, because I think you're advanced. You're an advanced student. I think it would be good for you to know. I've actually mentioned who it is in several videos in the past, but as a possibility. I didn't actually, you know, like say for sure, but I'm pretty sure. I've been talking about it for about 4 or 5 years now, and nothing's changed. You know, back in the day when Obama was the Antichrist, I was like, yeah, maybe, but I don't think so. And sure enough, he was kind of a nobody as far as all the spokesmodels that they have had over the years. Yeah, his claim to fame was he's the first one that wasn't a rich white boy, just half white boy, rich half white boy. But you know, and then now there's people talking about Donald Trump. I made a video called I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was basically just me sitting there unscripted talking about how Donald Trump is probably not the Antichrist. But this other guy, I've kind of had my eye on him for a long time, and yeah, he fills all of those, you know, qualifications: young, sexy, rich, powerful, and very insanely evil. Banning the practices would never work. Okay, I'm a hermit too. I can't wait for Jesus to return. My pale star, Uncle Nestor. Henry won't save me, thanks. Chile Spate family, Prince William. You cannot wait for Jesus to return in your lifetime. You must act. Well, let me tell you something. If you are acting, here's what's going to happen. In other words, if you take matters into your own hands, this is what's going to happen. On the day that Jesus was killed, this was a regularly scheduled ritual human sacrifice that happened every year on the Passover. Now, when God established his nation, he gave them the opportunity to have a regular Passover celebration where they sacrificed animals. But by Jesus' day, they were sacrificing humans. And as in the scapegoat sacrifice that had been practiced for hundreds of years, Pontius Pilate said, I'm going to allow you to take one of these and release it into the wilderness, because that's what the sacrifice was. You had 2 goats. They had to be close to identical. Priest laid his hands on each one of them, and he declared which one would be killed and which one would be taken to the edge of town and let go into the wilderness. So when Jesus was being executed, there was a man named Barabbas. What you're never told if you go to church is that Jesus's last name was Barsabbas. So Jesus Christ, Jesus Barsabbas, stood before the crowd, and then Jesus Barabbas stood before the crowd, and Pontius Pilate said, which one is going to be killed and which one's going to be released? And everybody said Barabbas, supposedly. That was a redoing of the scapegoat thing. Now, when Jesus was killed, it says there was a thief on either side of him. In original Greek, it does not say that Jesus was killed with two thieves. He was killed between two insurgents. Barabbas himself was an insurgent who was released. The man to his right was an insurgent who was killed. The man to his left was an insurgent who was killed. And Jesus was killed, as the Bible says, as an insurgent, not as a thief. He was killed as an insurgent. He was rebelling against the empire. Now, there were no charges that they could bring against him. And so Pilate was going to let him go because he knew Jesus was not an insurgent, but the people demanded it. The people didn't demand it because he was an insurgent. They demanded that he be killed because he was not. The people back then, like the people today, they want a savior to come in, kill the Roman Empire, and reestablish their personal version of the true religion. If you take a stand against Satan's empire, you're going to end up on the left or on the right, but you're going to die. You cannot stop Bible prophecy. You know, knowing that Satan is evil, knowing that his empire is evil, you need to also know that Satan's empire has weapons of mass destruction. Satan's empire has got nuclear-powered stealth drones that can wipe you out without you ever even seeing them. I don't care if you got an AK-47 and 1,000 rounds of ammo, you will not defeat the U.S. military. And remember, it's not just the U.S. military. This empire controls the whole world. So you cannot defeat Satan's empire. If you take action, you're going to die. It's not that that's a bad thing, because there is going to be a resurrection of both the righteous and the unrighteous, but you're going to feel pretty foolish when you're resurrected to a whole bunch of people saying, I told you so. Let's see, what am I missing here? Lara A says, I've been a hermit ever since, even as a kid. Yeah, me and Lara have had several conversations, and there are a lot of similarities between her childhood and my childhood. People seem to know who is a righteous person, even without them doing anything. If you're born, you're a righteous person. You can believe when they send you to school, they're sending you into the lion's den. Nipel Star always has anxiety when he has to deal with the general public. Uncle Nesta, is the Bible miniseries, the devil looks a lot like Bummer? Okay, I know who Bummer is. I don't, but that's good. That's good when Uncle Nesta. I'm sure somebody somewhere gets it. I'm a little too old for getting that stuff. All right. Vahid agrees with me and Lara. Patricia. And a big dimple in his cheek. Okay. Yeah, if y'all have seen, there's like a statue somewhere in ancient Egyptian statue of one of the pharaohs, and it looks just like, oh, you can take and put Obama's head on one half and that statue on the other half, and it looks like it's just one person. They're that close. All right. Oh, okay. Shannon's going to get Skype set up. Well, you know, I'm Skype, and this is open to anybody if you want to talk to me. Henry Thoreau, Henry Thoureau. I have to think about it because that's not my real name. But you can find me on Skype. There's a picture of me, so you'll know it's the right Henry Thoreau. And just send me a little message saying, and you can even send us a message to my YouTube channel if you can't figure out where my Skype is. Is it true Jesus died on a stake and the cross is an idol? Yes, it is. The word used is starou, S-T-A-R-O-U, and some say staros, S-T-A-R-O-U-S. Both are the same. It's just two slight variations of the same word. Starou means pointed stick. In Greek literature, there are, literally hundreds of references to people with putting in fence posts, putting up pilings for houses and such. And they're always called starou. Nowhere, anywhere in Greek literature is a starou, a cross. And I've done videos about this before, too. I think I did a video called The Cross, but I've also done videos where I talk about the constellations. And there is a constellation called Crux. And if you've ever seen the Ankh, that's the the cross that's got a little loop on top, that's the Ankh. It's where the cross came from. And that Ankh represents constellation crux, which is impossible because constellation crux is over the South Pole. People in Egypt cannot see it. But all ancient records of the constellations that were used for celestial navigation indicates that crux used to be much closer to the equator at one time. And in fact, when I said earlier that Jesus was asked, what would be a sign of your presence and the conclusion of the system of things, he said, well, when you see people driving stakes into the ground, know to get out. Supposedly, everyone who believed in Jesus got out before they finished sealing up the city of Jerusalem. Very possible that they were putting those stakes in and telling everybody, don't worry about a thing. This wall is to keep people out, not to keep people in. Didn't work out that way. But one of the other verses, the book of Luke, says that when you see the disgusting thing that causes destruction where it does not belong, get out. That disgusting thing that causes destruction is the cross. Now, we aren't seeing it anywhere. If you go down to like New Zealand, you can see it. South Africa, you can see it. South America, you can see it. It's out there over the South Pole. But our Earth is going to shift as our solar system corrects itself. And when it does, constellation crux will be back over the equator once again. People around the world will see it. That's the disgusting thing that causes destruction. Constellation crux, the cross. When you see that in the sky, you'll know that the end is near. Now that's the Ankh from Egyptian pharaoh worship. It's the same Ankh that's used by the filthy cult of Christianity. Religions all around the world use that cross because it's the thing they worship, which God shifted to the South Pole. Who is the Antichrist? I better not, because let me tell you something. I was talking to Carlos about this the other day, and he said, as people are being stifled on YouTube, having their channels demonetized, having their channels taken down, you don't want to be bad-mouthing the guy that's going to take that position. And so I'm not going to say his name again. It's in the record. If you go back a couple of years, you'll see where I talked about him, but we're not going to just keep making videos about it. And eventually I may take that video down just as a way of protecting the channel. But it's okay, because the day that he takes his throne, we'll be in a live stream and you'll be asking me, is this the guy? And I'll be I won't say it again. Oh! Somebody did say it. Okay. That's not on me. That's on you guys. Y'all all get squished by the empire. Oh, good night, Uncle Nesta. Love you again. Oh, well, Marie's asking where Uncle Nesta is, but he ain't here now, so he's gone. Oh, there he is. No. John Casey, when the equator shifts. When is the equator shift? Maybe. That's the first sign. When you see the disgusting thing that causes destruction, then you know it's time to get out. When that happens, you got 3.5 years. Actually, the very first thing that's going to happen, the very first thing is that the sun and the earth and the moon are going to go back into conjunction, which means that every night when you go outside, the moon will be full. Like right now, I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked lately, but I'm pretty sure if you go out and look at the moon, even if it is full, 2 or 3 days from now, it will not be. If you go out there 2 or 3 days from now and it's still full, then just know that the Earth is going back into conjunction. That means we're going to have a 360-day year. We're going to have 30-day months. We're going to have 12 30-day months. The months will always correspond with the year. We will no longer have leap years. We will no longer have months that are out of alignment with the lunar cycles. And when that happens, that's day one. 1,260 days later, a cloud will cover the earth. The dead will be resurrected, and Jesus will return. So that's the cycle. That's the last stage. When you see the sun and the earth and the moon go back into conjunction, that means that the clock is ticking. Now, if you're not sure, if you look out there and you say, man, it looks like we've gone back, just be patient, because every 180 days, something phenomenal will happen in our sky. When Jesus said that you'll see signs in heaven with sun and earth, or sun and moon and stars, that's what he was talking about. The planet Saturn, which is a teeny tiny dot. In the ancient past, people recognized that it had rings. That's impossible. It's way out there. You cannot see rings. And Galileo invented the telescope. He couldn't see rings because he couldn't get close enough to it. But when you start seeing planets popping back into their original orbits so close to the Earth that they can block out the light of the sun, then you know that you're in that last days thing. And if you remember that I'm the one that told you, then you won't go listening to the Antichrist, because he's going to have a cover story. When all of this starts happening, these guys are not going to just admit they're defeated. You know, whoever's in charge at that time is going to point up at Mars as it sits there on the horizon. And he's going to say, look what I did. And 90% of the Earth's population is going to go, wow, this guy's really good. And the Bible says that too. When the Antichrist comes, the man of lawlessness, everybody's going to be happy about his presence, you know, because he's going to fix the economy. He's going to put walls up between all the bad people and the good people. He's going to make this whatever, you know, all the things that people want. He's going to fulfill all of that, you know, good job, nice house, nice car, all that stuff. And the nicest thing he's going to do is he's going to bring all the planets back. So when you see that, that's the bad guy. When he's saying, look what I did, that's the guy you don't want to worship. Oh, dance there, puff, puff. Man, I can't smoke anything. I can't even stand on the downwind side of a fire when I'm out there burning it. So puff, puff don't mean nothing to me. Okay. Marie's vegetable garden got her message retracted. That's all right, Marie. I'll go back later and try to. Wait, I'm just going to do this now. I trust you. See what she says here. No, it doesn't do it. It says put this person in timeout. I'm not going to do that to Marie. I love Marie as much as I love Uncle Nesta. Now I got to go through. No, Uncle Nesta, you got my phone number. Don't even tell me to say that stuff. I'll call him. He's always wanting to talk on the phone. I think I'll be. Well, let me tell you. Yeah, how can fire come out of his fingertips? Look, when all the things that are prophesied about Jesus' return are going to start happening before Jesus returns. So this guy don't have to have any kind of magic powers. He knows that something's coming. All he has to do is claim it as his own. Like I said, when the sun and the earth and the moon go back into conjunction and nobody knows what's happening, all they need is for that guy to raise his hands up and say, look what I did. Look what I did. And that's what the Bible, when the Bible prophesies about all of the wonderful things that the Antichrist is going to do, it's actually prophesying about what everybody is going to think the Antichrist is doing. He'll be here in a fleshly body, just like the rest of us, but he is going to be worshipped just like politicians are worshipped today, only more betterer. I'm old already. The empire better act fast. I'm right there with you. Oh, okay. Ricardo and Carlos are there. Wait, are you just now getting here? Well, I won't scold them too bad. A lot of people. There's only 38 people here. I'd have to scold the other 7 billion. So we'll just cut him some slack. Frost quakes freak out my dog. I don't know. We don't have frost quakes down here. What is up with the repetition of the number 11? Haven't got a clue. Suzanne Johnson. Excellent, Henry. Good to hear you. Thanks. Thank you for being here. Oh, Marie deleted her comment on her own. Okay. That's cool. As long as we're cool, as long as mean YouTube didn't take your comment down, I'm good. All right. And I live you too. So not only did I say it first, but I'm the only one that said it right. uh, okay. Thoughts on the resurgence of, I don't have any thoughts on any of that. All these things are like weird things that are happening. Like I've seen the videos of the Pope at Easter Mass thanking Satan, thanking Lucifer. Oh, Lucifer, thank you for all of the blessings you bestow on us. And I was like, wow, that is really. So I went to look and see what their explanation of it is. And they got a kind of, the Catholic apologists are like, Lucifer means bearer of light. And Jesus himself said that he was the light of the world, which means Lucifer. So obviously, in Latin, Jesus is Lucifer. That's a little shaky because pretty much everybody knows that by tradition, Lucifer is Satan. And in fact, the words that are the word that's translated as Lucifer in the Bible is I've done forgot it. It's Helios, Heliae. I think it's Helios. Helios means bearer of the eye of light, or bearer of light. And very obviously in that particular verse, it's talking about the king of Tyre, who is being accused of being the antichrist of his day. Now, if we go back in ancient Egyptian mythology, the very first pharaoh is called Osiris. Osiris is the Egyptian word, which means bearer of the eye of enlightenment. And so all the way through the Bible, there are these light bearers, and they're always the Antichrist. And so when Jesus comes, he makes the claim that he is the light of the world. And in the very beginning of John chapter 1 and verse 1, it talks about in the beginning there was logic, and logic came into the world, and logic was with God, and logic was a God, and the logic brought forth light, and that light dwelt among us. So yes, Jesus is the light, but Jesus is the true light. The Bible always compares Jesus to those other sources of light as the true light, whereas those who are wicked, their light is in fact darkness. That's scriptural. Don't know the numbers and verses right now, but it's a fact. All right. Thoughts on the Carlos McDermott? Yep, sorry. Don't worry, you're forgiven, Carlos. We've talked about you earlier, so you probably want to go back and watch the whole video over again. All right, Marie, I'm glad she's happy about me making fun of her "I live you" comment. All right. That is what they say in Freemason rituals as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that, that the whole thing about the Freemasonry is that God is the God of light, but they always speak of God being the God of light in the way that Satan was the God of light to Eve, right? Remember when he told her, you will be like God? It says your eyes will be open. In other words, he was enlightening her, giving her more light. But her light, the light that he put into Eve, turned out to be darkness. And so the Freemasons have to keep talking about it like it wasn't darkness, because that's their God. The Freemasons there also, remember, their main character, their hero is Solomon. And as I said earlier, Solomon always portrayed like a fleshly version of Satan. Once David was gone, his son took over. His son was wicked. Just like when once God gave mankind rulership of the earth, Satan took over. Satan being God's son, the son that's spoken of in the prodigal son story. You have two sons. One always does what's right. One always does what's wrong. Satan being the one that always does what's wrong. But in the end, everything works out. So just know that that cute little illustrative story represents how our earth is going to actually end up in the end. All right, it is Helios. Okay, Carlos, thank you. Satan is part of the canon. Maybe they just wanted to include him somehow. Yeah, I mean, honestly, all religions on earth, I always say the God of religion is Satan. You know, the God of truth is God. The God of religion is Satan, because religion is just evil. You know, it's a way of, God says, be good, love one another, love me. And man says, well, sounds okay. But instead of loving one another, what if we sacrifice a bull every year and always promise to wear the right clothing and always have a special sacred haircut and a secret handshake? Would that be okay? Obviously, it's not okay, but God said, do what you want. And so mankind has all kinds of secret societies, not just the Freemasons, but the Catholics, the Protestants, the Jews, the Muslims, the Hindus, the Buddhists, all of that nonsense that humanity chooses to follow as opposed to following natural law, all because the God of religion is Satan. Hope this video doesn't get pulled. Okay, let's see what else is up here. I think of Lucifer as a drag queen, as a statue. You know, the Statue of Liberty is the god Venus, goddess Venus. If you notice on her head, let me point this thing up. Yeah, on her head, she's got those little spikes. Count them. Count them someday. There's 7 spikes there. Remember, when Jesus came to the earth, he met a woman over at his friend's house, Lazarus. He was his sister, Lazarus' sister Mary, who's Mary Magdalene. And we're not told much about Mary Magdalene, except that Jesus removed 7 demons from her. So it's Mary Magdalene is kind of like a Venus character. You know, she's the mother goddess, the love goddess, just like his mother was before him. You know, Mary, all these Marys, if you ever look, there's always like 7s and 12s around her. She always has like a star right here in the middle of her head, star on each shoulder. But yeah, that's all the way through history. That's the mother goddess is always made into a goddess, elevated to her godship by Satan. All right. Oh, Marshmallow agrees. All right, John Casey, is there a difference between Lucifer and Satan, or is it just semantics? I think it's just semantics. I don't know that there's any. You know, if you go back and look at all mythologies earthwide, and not just the ones that were aware of one another, there's always a serpent god or a dragon god or a lizard god. And that's in every culture. And supposedly these people didn't even know each other. You know, I mean, obviously the dragons of Chinese mythology may be based on the European dragons of mythology, because there are people who somehow made it across all of that landmass to get into Asia. But then you've got to explain the Mayan, Aztec, Incan gods. You know, Quetzalcoatl is the serpent god of South America. There's a big ocean between Egypt and America. So you know, all of these gods are probably the same god. All serpent gods are Satan, and then you have their sons and their grandsons and their great. Those are probably all Satans too. You know, the Zeus. You know, Jupiter, all of those guys are probably Satan. Yeah, Satan means adversary, Lucifer. Oh yeah, Lucifer is it's just a fake word. It was added to the Bible. I mean, it's in one verse in the entire Bible, and if you look at it, it's not a transliteration, because the word Helios and Lucifer are not related to one another. Lucifer is like a combination of 2 words in Latin, which mean light bearer. And so Helios is the Greek word which means light bearer, and Osiris is the Egyptian word that means light bearer. Or you know, Helios is the Hebrew word. All right, well, it's about time for us to close this down. Try to keep them to an hour so people can. There's at least some possibility of somebody watching one of these things from start to finish. All right. Well, you know, here's the thing about sorcery, the dragon of sorcery. I'm going to answer this for Joseph Caesar Pedron, is that all of these ancient dragon stories are based on the same thing, but they always speak of the great dragon being memorialized in the heavens. So if you look, this is just one more last thing before we check out, is right up near the North Pole is constellation Draco. Draco is the Latin. It's equal to the Greek word dragoon. Dracoon. I think it's Latin. It might be Roman, but you know, Roman is Latin. So the great Draco is in the Bible, when it says that the great dragon was hurled down to the earth, and woe to you because he's come down to you with great anger. Well, that says, when it talks about the great dragon being hurled down, it actually says the great Draco, constellation Draco. And in the ancient past, you could see Draco, Alpha Draconis, that star, the brightest star in Draco, from the basement of the pyramid. If you're down at the bottom of the pyramid looking through that tube that goes out to the sky, Alpha Draconis was there. Nowadays, if you go in there, Polaris is there. You'll see Polaris because that thing is aimed directly at the North Pole or above the North Pole. And so when it talks about the great dragon was hurled, it's talking about constellation Draco being hurled down, which did happen. And by coincidence, every star chart produced before Jesus' death shows Alpha Draconis as the North Star. Every star chart produced after Jesus' death indicates that Polaris is a North Star. I really believe that when that earthquake took place at Jesus' death, and then the next earthquake took place 3.5 days later, that during that time period, our Earth shifted to the point where Alpha Draconis was no longer the North Star. And that's, you know, as above, so below. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you very much, Marshmallow. I never, ever remember to tell people that, but other people do, and their channels are thriving. Mine is always struggling. So we'll just tell y'all to do that. And good night, everybody. Love y'all. Subscribe, hit the like button, hit the little bell so you'll get notifications. And as always, if you do not want to survive, don't listen.